The mirror's covered up.
Oh yeah, what a Dumbo, but it wouldn't sit. Hang on. Everybody, we're doing our best
Turn it
here.
round.
Trying. Ah,
There we
hello.
are.
Oh,
no.
that's what happened. That's why I put the thing there. You need to put the brake.
There we are.
Yeah, I'm sorry. We're having a bit more technical difficulty today than we have in the past.
We thought we were doing so well after our second
we're real
week
pros
last week.
after 3 goes, but no. Anyway, hello.
Hello.
I'm Hannah. I'm from the infant feeding team.
And I'm Naomi, also an infant feeding team midwife. And we're at the John Radcliffe Hospital at the moment. And we're here today for about half an hour again or so, to answer any questions that you might have, any concerns, any worries about feeding your baby, any aspects at all, whether you're pregnant or whether you have got a baby in your arms. Do fire away and let us know that you can hear us.
So, on our very first video we talked about hand expressing, and then we thought maybe the second time that we would do positioning and attachment and show you the leaflet around that, but then there were a lot of questions last time, so we didn't get round to it, so maybe it would be a beneficial thing to talk about that today. When you have your baby, we used to give them out before, but now you get them when your baby's born, and they're called Off to the Best Start leaflets. They're these yellow leaflets, and you can view it online as well as on our infant feeding webpage. And there's a lot of useful information in there, maybe a lot of words when you're just had a baby and you're sleep deprived, but there's also this page, which is page 10, has some really great photographs of good attachment. I'm not sure if you can. Can you see that? Sorry.
Good.
Yeah. So 8 times out of 10, the reason breastfeeding isn't working so well or it's sore is simply because it's not wonky enough. I know that sounds funny, but when you just put your nipples straight into your baby's mouth dead centre, your baby can't really get on well enough, and it's painful, and your baby can't reach the ducts. And that's why we call it latching on, because what we want your baby really to do is to approach the breast very nose to nipple rather than mouth to nipple. And then you can see here that the bottom jaw of your baby hits your breast, and then your baby just makes it over the top of the nipple. Can you see that? So good breastfeeding is really, really wonky and really asymmetrical. And 8 times out of 10, if a mum can achieve that really asymmetrical attachment, then a lot of the breastfeeding challenges go away.
You might see it more clearly on this bigger picture. Can you see that? Is it a bit bright and reflective? But actually there's some really good pictures. You see where you're lining your baby up there. So the nose is at the nipple level and the baby lifts its head back and it just skims over the top gum, and the baby is almost underneath the breast and looks like it's going to fall off. So these are really good, babies are gaping beautifully there and doing everything you want them to, which is frustrating if your baby doesn't quite do that. But that's a really good demonstration of where you start and where your baby is when it lifts its head back and then can lead with the chin, and the nose is really free. As you can see, it's well away from the breast and much further underneath the breast than you think when you give a bottle, which is very central.
And you can maybe see that a little bit on this picture, that you can see that baby's really, really asymmetrical. It's not dead centre on the nipple, and if you have a large enough areola, the dark or pink area, you should see a little bit more of that above the top of above your baby's top lip. So it should look like your baby, as Naomi says, is not dead centre but sort of below, depending on the position of your baby. Oh, hello Grace, you've got a question for us already. You're due to have a cesarean. Will there be help for me to get baby in a good position and latched on? You're conscious that once your husband goes, you'll be a bit useless. Oh, I hope not. I think you may surprise yourself. So there will be. All the midwives and midwifery support workers have had training in supporting mothers to position and attach their babies. They've also had lots of training, and our audits tell us that we're really good at the initial skin to skin. So you should expect to have skin to skin with your baby, even if you have a cesarean, and for at least an hour or until the first feed, or as long as you want. The longer the better. And we've spoken before in these Facebook Lives about how babies play out their natural feeding behaviours and how important that can be for the rest of, so breastfeeding going on. We find that babies who are allowed to have that skin to skin initially after birth and allowed to play out their feeding behaviours and searching for the breast, they tend to have less problems with feeding later on. So that's definitely worth doing, and that especially if you're having a cesarean, so your baby gets familiar with your breast. But yes, the staff will be there to help you. Make sure you ask. If you're not getting the help you need, then ring the bell. Say that you need some support, either with hand expressing if your baby's not yet ready to attach, or with how to hold and attach your baby. So do ask, and you should be offered help as well.
When you have your next antenatal appointment, I can't remember how many weeks. Is it 2 weeks? You said you were having a cesarean. If you have another appointment with your midwife, you could ask her to go through demonstrating how to hand express as well, so she can do that for you when you see her face to face at the next appointment, if you've got one. If not, we can do it with the staff can do it with you. But also remember that you'll feel quite groggy and quite shaky when you're having a cesarean, and you'll feel quite overwhelmed being on your back and feel a bit numb. And so it takes a lot of sort of determination to make sure that you can hold your baby, because you will feel a little bit strange and you might feel a bit sick and a little bit shivery. So just if you're aware of those sensations, that might happen when you have your cesarean, that throughout that you can have your baby as much as you feel you can in all of that time. And they will offer you skin to skin. It'll be very unusual for them not to, particularly if your baby's not well, something like that. That might be the situation, but most babies will go straight to the mums and be offered skin to skin as soon as they're born. And it's important that you hold close and keep your baby warm when they're in theatre. But you should get support, and your partner will be with you if it's in the theatre with an epidural. And so you should be able to, with him, hold the baby close.
Sometimes you're very, very flat on your back, like Naomi said, and I think we've said in previous videos that
it
can be difficult to do really, really easy, good skin to skin. But just you can have your baby close to your face and nuzzled up to you, and you can smell your baby, and as soon as you're back into your room or into observation area, you should be made more comfortable and be able to do skin to skin. So make sure to, the staff will be very aware about trying to give you skin to skin as soon as possible, but just make sure that you're reminding people that you haven't had proper skin to skin yet. So that's be your own advocate.
You may have drips in your arms and hands, so that you can't do easy hand expressing and get your baby on the breast as easily as mums that haven't got those things. So do ask for help, and get them to support you while you're doing it, and teach you how to get your baby to go onto the breast and have a suckle as early as possible. And if your baby's not really able to do that, then do some hand expressing as soon as you can.
And if you know, you could even experiment a little bit with doing it, once you're at 36 weeks, just experiment with some hand expressing now, and you might be surprised. You might end up with a few small syringes that you can keep in the freezer and then bring in with you when you're ready to have your cesarean. And then if everything goes wonderfully and baby attaches, then you won't need them, or if you manage to hand express at the time. But then it just gives you a bit of reassurance if you've either if you manage to harvest some now, or if you've just learnt that skill, you'll feel more confident in doing it once your baby's born. And I think if you go back to our first Facebook Live, you can watch a demonstration of how to hand express. If you're at all unsure, just speak to your community midwife, give them a call, and the number will be in your maternity notes, and ask them for some purple syringes to express your colostrum into. I think we've got some, I hope that helps, Grace. We're just going to have a look, because we've got thick and furious comments coming through now. Oh, hi, Sean. Sean Lay's come in to support us. That's nice. And Hannah's saying that her little one is struggling to stay on the nipple. Not all the time, but especially at night. And wondering, baby's got quite windy the last few days. Hang on, and is it likely that she has an intolerance to your milk? And she's struggling to open her mouth wide enough to latch like the photos we've shown.
Okay. So it's very unusual for babies to have milk intolerances, and I think you need to really talk to the midwives, or how old's your baby?
I'm not sure. I think I remember Hannah from last time.
Make sure that you can talk to somebody and talk what the symptoms are through it. The most likely thing is that your baby is unsettled because it may not be quite getting a deep enough latch, or may not be quite on the breast far enough, and it might be that you're a little bit central, and this is going back to those photographs. But if you look at your breast, so a lot of people spend a lot of time on YouTube looking at other mothers' breasts and other mothers' babies and trying to do what they're doing, and your breast is not their breasts. And so what you've got to do is look at what you've got. So I don't know if you can see me, I'll stand up, but if your breast is up there, then your baby, if you can see, needs to be up there looking at you, so close in to you, close to you there. If your breasts are like that, which is what most women's breasts are, your baby needs to come up and underneath. And most people come to us saying that their babies have got suckling problems because they are feeding their baby like that, and their breasts are down there, and so every time they suck and pause, the breast falls out the baby's mouth.
And sometimes it's exacerbated by cushions. So sometimes
Yeah.
there's an idea that you have to have cushions to position your baby and rest your baby on. But we would say they can be helpful cushions, especially if you've got quite breasts that aren't very pendulous. But we would always say, wouldn't we, attach your baby first and have the cushion nearby to pull in underneath. So get the good attachment first before using any kind of cushion or wedge or.
And if your breasts are
anything.
a little bit lower than some, you could always roll up a muslin cloth and roll it up like a towel. You roll a towel up and pop it underneath your breast to give it a little bit of support, and it just might bring it up a little bit more, but we call it the angle of the dangle, but it just means it's where your breast lies, and your baby has to go on that plane wherever it is. So if you're trying to put your baby on tummy to mummy, which is not what we would recommend, because you can see that breast will fall out of the baby's mouth all the time if it lets go. So if you stabilise the baby on the breast, you can see that the baby is supporting the nipple in its mouth, and it's not going to come off. And that will make the baby stay on a bit deeper and will stop the baby from falling off. So, try that. That could be a tip that will help. And then you may be able to get a bigger, deeper latch, because your baby is in the right plane for you, not for the picture that you're looking at or the YouTube video that you're watching.
If you have a mirror easily accessible in your house, it does help sometimes to just take your top off and look in the mirror and see where your breasts lie. Sometimes it's very common for a woman to have a nipple that points slightly out on one side or slightly down on the other side. We're not at all symmetrical. Breasts are different sizes and nipples point slightly in different directions. So, and then when you add lactation on top of it, where the breast might be slightly heavier, so it's really important, like Naomi says, to look at your own breasts and assess what the position is, and sometimes that helps to get the right attachment. I hope that helps.
And do call us if you're still having problems, and we'll talk you through it again. But, think about where your breasts are lying and look at those. And, you might need to bring your baby, make sure you can see if they are dangling down a little bit lower, then make sure you can see your baby's eyes. Turn it around so you can see both their eyes and their face rather than just one eye. And that might just be so that they're facing you a little bit more. That might help you attach your baby. You see? So if it's down there, you might see both your baby's eyes when you're feeding.
Come a bit further in there.
So you can see that this little one is hard to say, isn't it? Hard to see, but he's looking at you more than if you're like that, and you can only see half of his face. Turn him round so you can see more of his face, and that might mean that he stabilises the breast in his mouth and it doesn't fall out, and then you get a deeper, consistent latch.
But keeping baby very, very close, so you don't want baby's tummy right up to the ceiling like that.
Right into the contours of your body.
Yeah. And then, so I hope that helps a little bit, Hannah. But do call us if there's more that you need. Amy's due in September. Congratulations. She breastfed both of her girls, one for a year and one for 15 months.
Well done.
She definitely wants to breastfeed again. And she's saying that it's been quite helpful because 5 years she's forgotten how to do it all. it is like riding a bike. You won't have forgotten how to do it, or you're a very experienced breastfeeding mother. So you'll hit the ground running. I think sometimes it is a bit of a shock, which you might have found with your second girl, that is a bit of a shock to go from a sort of a toddler to a newborn again. It is quite different, and just remembering that they can't support themselves as easily. So it's important to make sure that just for the first few weeks you are using a shelf or platform behind their neck and shoulders and holding them very, very close to you, because they just don't have the tone to keep the breast like a toddler would. So they do need that extra bit of holding close and that support around their neck and shoulders, obviously leaving the head completely free for breastfeeding, but good support. And especially in the early days, maybe the opposite hand to your breast, just really holding your baby very close throughout the whole feed, because little babies just don't have the tone in their face, and your baby will start to fall off the breast if you don't hold them on for the whole feed. Sometimes you can do upright feeding with your baby, which uses Naomi says I should stand up, that's much better. Upright feeding, where you can hold your baby underneath, so you've got your baby's armpits in between your thumb and forefinger like this on both sides, and bring your baby nose to nipple, so up and under your, sorry, using my breast here, up and under your breast, and that can be a really good way of feeding a little baby as well, and it really maximises their natural instincts to feed when they're in that position, and you can do that lying and sort of a bit back in the bed or in the chair. So those are some things to try. So it'll all come flooding back to you.
And ask for help.
Ask for help.
Especially in September, we might be available then. It's all a bit difficult now, isn't it?
Yeah. Paula, hi Paula. Big thank you for our video. Thank you. And helpful. What to do if milk is running too fast? Sorry, I'm just trying to read all of your comment. It's really tiny writing, so that's why I'm peering. You've got a 4-week baby girl. Congratulations. Getting a bit. Your little girl's getting a bit stressed and nervous. You're trying to change positions, expressing a little bit before feeds, but it doesn't seem to be helping. You don't think she's eating enough, and she wants to eat frequently, so after an hour. You'd love to continue breastfeeding, and you're willing to do what you need to do. So, I mean, it sounds wonderful that you've been feeding her for 4 weeks. It's so brilliant to be still going, especially with some of the challenges of a forceful letdown. So it's wonderful that you have lots of milk, but it does create sometimes it's other challenges in the same way that not enough milk does. So sometimes that forceful letdown can make your baby cough and splutter and choke slightly at the beginning of a feed, especially when the breast is quite full, and maybe even pull back or come off. Your baby might click quite a lot at the beginning of the feed, and all of these things are because your baby's struggling to keep up with the flow, which sounds like you've been experiencing. Excuse me, I'm gonna cough. And so there are a couple of things. It sounds like maybe you've tried changing positions. So we would say if your baby's feeding upright, that's quite good for babies where there's a forceful letdown. Sometimes leaning back a little bit, just so the gravity of the milk isn't falling right into your baby's mouth, but that you're leaning back a little bit just to slow that flow down for your baby. If you've got what is true forceful milk ejection reflex, expressing a little bit at the beginning feed probably won't help, because you'll continue to get that forceful milk ejection throughout the feed. And so it's really, as your baby gets older, she will definitely cope with it much better. As little babies, they sometimes struggle more, but your baby will adapt to that.
Sometimes if your baby's not quite on deeply enough as well, the milk sort of pools in the mouth rather than going down the throat, and that sometimes makes them splutter, and that, trying to get a deeper latch sometimes will improve the milk transfer and their ability to cope with suckling, swallowing and breathing. So if you can look at your positioning again and just see if just going on a little bit deeper might improve the baby's transfer of milk, and it goes down the throat rather than pooling a little bit in the mouth. You might find that they don't splutter quite so much. And sometimes if you have got lots of milk, it's because they're just not quite deeply enough on, and that supply gets a bit overstimulated.
Which may fit a little bit with your feeling that she's hungry again quite soon.
Yeah.
Although I would say a breastfed baby at 4 weeks who's hungry again in an hour isn't necessarily a frequency that we would be concerned about. I'm not sure if it's your first baby. It'd be really worth getting in touch with our wonderful colleagues in La Leche League, who are very experienced with all ages of breastfeeding babies. And the great thing about them is that they will, you'll be able to meet other mothers, so it's mother-to-mother support, who are breastfeeding both at the same stage that you're at, but also a little bit further ahead than you, and you'll find that they have lots of experience of mothers who've had similar forceful letdowns, and they'll be able to give you tips about what worked for them that you could try, and also talk about the frequency that their babies are feeding, because actually you may find that when you start talking to other mums who are breastfeeding, your baby's actually feeding a really normal amount of times a day, and breastfed babies do feed frequently, not always regularly, but frequently.
It's a bit isolating at the moment, because you can't get out and meet up with friends and have a cup of tea like you would perhaps have done 2 months ago. You know, you're not meeting them socially in the same way, so it is a bit more difficult just being on WhatsApp or whatever with your friends, that it's not the same sort of flowing conversation to find out these things as easily. But I think that, you know, reassuring yourself that you're doing a really good job is really important. And also OBS, Oxfordshire Breastfeeding Support, they do face-to-face online appointments as well, so that you can get somebody to just see if anything is looking really obvious in your attachment, to see if just tweaking it a little bit will make a difference.
Yeah.
Might be that you pull your baby down a little bit further and it goes from underneath the breast a bit more, and that might get a deeper latch, and you might find that the oversupply settles down after 3 or 4 days if you get a better, deeper latch. It's worth trying.
And La Leche also offering online Zoom meetings, so trying to simulate as much as possible the sort of tea and cake meeting scenario that they would usually be running. So definitely try both of those, reach out for that kind of support.
Yes, there are sort of baby group support, Zoom supports going on in Oxfordshire as well, that you can join in on and just have a chat on Zoom with other mums, and it's just peer support.
I hope that helps. Hi Katie, you're asking about pumps. So we wouldn't recommend any particular type of breast pump or endorse any particular brand. There are actually so many out there now. It used to be that there were just the sort of 3 or 4 big players and everybody had their sort of preference, but really there's not a lot in it, and it really depends what you're planning to do with the pump. So like anything, you know, if you want to go very fast, you might buy a sports car, and if you want to, you know, poodle along, you might buy something else, and it's really the same with breast pump. So if you think you're going to be doing a lot of pumping, or you anticipate that your baby is going to be early or away from you, or any of those things, or you've experienced in the past breastfeeding experience that you've struggled with milk supply, then you're really looking at a double electric hospital grade pump, and you can buy those and rent them. And also our midwives, the midwifery teams in the community do keep some pumps to loan out as well, and the health visitors and Oxfordshire Breastfeeding Support also. So it's worth asking around if you're in that situation and you need it. And if you are in that situation, we would strongly recommend double pumping with a hands-on technique. And if you Google hands-on pumping, there's a very American video from an American university called Stanford University, but this kind of hands-on massaging as well as double pumping at the same time has shown that women get more milk that way, and a fattier, richer milk by using their hands on at the same time. I think what you've said from your question is that you're hoping that your partner will be able to feed your baby occasionally. So for that kind of pumping, you may find that if you get really good at hand expressing, that may be enough, and you can express into the bottle after you've breastfed and do that, and by the end of the day you might have a feed in the fridge. You could use a single electric pump or a single manual pump. So it really is finding out what works for you and your breasts. But for that sort of pumping, you probably just need something that you find comfortable. I would say make sure the funnel size is the right size for you, and try not to get too swayed by all the diagrams that show you how the flange should fit. Just make sure that it is comfortable, you're not getting any friction or pain, and bearing in mind that thank you, Naomi, bearing in mind that your milk ducts are 2 to 3 centimetres away from your nipple base. So this pink or dark area, the areola, is complete red herring. It doesn't matter if it's this big, almost up to your armpit, or teeny tiny, hardly visible. There's a big range between women. The really important thing is that you go 2 to 3 centimetres, thank you, from your nipple base, and that's where you'll find the ducts. And so when your nipple's drawn into the funnel by the pump,
You need to lift it up a bit.
what you want to see is here, where the maximum amount of compression will happen, is you want it to be over your ducts when the pump is pulling. So try and think about that. And often women use too small a funnel.
The standard size for most is 24 millimetres.
Which is a bit small.
Which
often.
is a bit small for a lot of women, and they find it very uncomfortable. So, 28, 30, or even 32, they do go up to size 36. So, if you do get a pump, just have a look and see if they have a selection of flange funnel sizes that you can change if it's not quite right for you, because if you buy an expensive pump and then it's no good because they don't have a flange option, a funnel size option, you can't use the pump well, and then you're sort of stuck with it.
It's almost more important, isn't it, to get comfortable, make sure that the different sizes of funnel are easily bought, and so that you can find the one that suits you. And I think for the amount of light expressing that you're probably planning to do, it wouldn't matter so much about the pump, more the funnel size. I mean,
some people use something called a breast reliever, and you may have seen those advertised, and they're like a silicone bulb with a funnel on the end, and you just sort of squeeze it and leave it on, and the milk drips when you're breastfeeding your baby, or you're just sitting in your milk, you're quite full. You will collect drip breast milk, but they're not pumps, they are breast relievers, so they are for relieving full breasts, but they are quite useful for some mums, and a lot of mums find them very helpful. Yes, if you're quite leaky, it's a good way of collecting milk.
For some women, they don't work. They have huge milk supply and they just don't work because their breasts are not of the leaky variety. But so you just have to see if it works for you. If you're pumping to actually give your baby additional milk as well, just be careful, because drip milk doesn't have quite as much fat and
mix it with
stuff in it. But talk to your midwife if you're in that situation.
Don't get hung up on that. Just mix it with a bit of pumped milk as well, so you can spread it out a bit.
Yeah.
But it's a great way of collecting milk if you're struggling to pump and fit it all in a day. And, talk to us about it if you're worried.
Okay, Katie, I hope that's covered pumps. Let's have a look. Great. Grace is saying she's already started practicing 36-week colostrum harvesting.
Brilliant.
Amazing. Yay. You're so ahead of the game.
Yeah.
You're just going to hit the road running.
You'll
just
have
make sure
so much experience when you've had your baby.
That's wonderful. Keep going. Don't worry about what you get. Just learn about your breasts. And as women, we sometimes hardly ever touch our breasts until the time then when we're breastfeeding, or we might do a breast examination to check for lumps and bumps. But generally speaking, we're quite poor at feeling our breasts, so that's great. You'll find the sweet spot, because everybody has the milk producing tissue, the lactiferous tissue, in different places, even different places between each breast. So you'll get to know your own breast and where the sweet spots are, and that's fantastic. So yes, well done.
Great skill.
Sophie, hi Sophie. Gosh, you're nearly there. 37 weeks, amazing. And you're also collecting.
Full moon tonight, ladies. Beware.
There's no volume at all, especially if you're doing antenatal colostrum collecting. It's actually more about learning the skill, so that when you're tired and your baby's just been born, that if your baby doesn't attach, then actually you know how to express. And because it's quite hard to learn something new when you're really tired and you might be a bit sore. So it's not so much about harvesting and having something, it's more about actually learning the skill. So don't worry at all about volume. Some women breastfeed 6 babies into toddlerhood but have never been able to get any colostrum out antenatally. So it's definitely not a predictor of whether you'll be able to breastfeed or how much breast milk you have. Some women don't manage to get any colostrum before the baby's born, but once that placenta's removed, it's green lights, go, and your milk production will kick in. So some people just need to get rid of their placenta to be able to produce milk. So just do whatever you can and collect whatever you can. And if you don't get anything, just put it down to experience and that you've learned the skill.
And sometimes
yeah.
women leak in their pregnancy from 16 weeks. You know, you find that you've got big blobs on your nightie at 16 weeks, and that's quite normal, as much as not having that. And as your pregnancy goes on, you might find that you get more and more coming out, or you might not have any. And that's absolutely perfectly normal. It doesn't mean you can't breastfeed. If you haven't got it, it's absolutely fine that you don't have any antenatal colostrum visible, or you don't get it out. It's not a good indicator. You're learning the skill, as Hannah said, and it's learning a skill before you've got all those other things that you've got to think about and you're tired. So have a go. You know, do it in the shower when you're feeling unobserved and private. You find that your hormone release of hormones is much greater if you're not being observed or you're feeling very self-conscious. And that's the same in the hospital. If you come in and you need to do some hand expressing, you might find that you go to the bathroom and do it the first few times because you're feeling a little bit vulnerable behind a curtain, or if somebody is coming in and out and you're not really very used to other people seeing your body. So, you know, make yourself comfortable and make sure that you're in an environment where you can just relax to release hormones, and that might actually the flow of your colostrum when you start hand expressing in the early days. You might find it's more.
And like we said in the first video, a bit of gentle massage, any way that it feels natural and comfortable for you. It should be a pleasant sensation. Even a little bit of nipple rolling or touching, all of that will release that hormone that Naomi's talking about, oxytocin, to release the milk down to these ducts we've been talking about, so that you can either hand express the milk or that your baby can get hold of it. So that's really important, and it's a shy hormone, like Naomi said. It needs to it needs the right environment. And if your baby's already born, it can really help to do some visualization. And I know it sounds very hippie and very vague, but if you think about what your baby smells like, you know, and all the feelings that you have for your baby, it can really help to release the milk down while you're hand expressing. So give that a go as well. Visualization can really help. I hope that's answered some questions, Sophie. Oh, I've gone whizzing ahead, sorry. Hang on. Donna, you had your little girl in June 2018, and you didn't have a great experience getting feeding support before you left the hospital. It was very busy, and let me just press for more. Oops. And you want to make sure you get the help so that she's feeding properly, because she lost weight, and oh, sorry, I'm finding it really difficult to follow your comments, really tiny. It was very busy, but I never really got the help to make sure she was feeding properly, and she lost a lot of weight and ended up being just being able to express and bottle feed before it came too much and you started to give formula. You're pregnant again, due in August, worried that it's going to be hard again, and you probably want, we probably want ladies in and out quickly as possible. But you really want to try and feed again, and this is something I can really try to get help with this time. I think you're right, and I'm really sorry that you didn't have a good experience of feeding support last time, and it sounds like you had a lot of challenges. I think it's really important to keep asking for help. If you're able to do some hand expressing before your baby's born, like we said, that can be really, really beneficial, both psychologically to know that you have the skill, but also if you do manage to get a little bit, then it gives you, you know that if things are off to a slow start, you do have something there. Ask, you know, if you had a really complicated journey last time, do call us. We can talk about your individual situation with you. We'd be really happy to speak to you over the phone and make sure that you have a clear plan for when your baby's born. And then also, you know, once you have your baby, to ask the staff for help. And if you feel like you're not getting the help you need, then ask if they'd be able to get hold of the infant feeding team, and then we could come up and see you. So please just ask, be really assertive about needing the help and getting the help that you need. We're trying to not have too many women, you're right, trying to get women in and out. not so much in and out quickly, just not admit women that don't need to be here. So it's not necessarily once you've had a baby, it's more during pregnancy. If women, you know, are unwell, we try to keep them home rather than bringing them in as an inpatient. So
and August's a long way off in our political
yeah,
climate,
I think things
so
are
it may be that,
going to change
you know,
again.
that it's slightly different climate when you come in August. Who knows? We don't know.
Yeah. Please call us if you'd like to chat about your experience last time and make plans for this time. And Hannah is saying that she's on week 3 of breastfeeding her first baby. Her nipples seem really different. One is big, and this breast seems to be larger in general. And when she initially latches her baby, it's quite painful on that side. Until she gets going. And then the other is really small. Is this normal? We're very asymmetrical, aren't we?
Everybody's
I think
got
it probably
different
is
halves.
normal.
Everybody's got different halves and different shaped nipples in different places. And some breasts are bigger on one side than the other, and some nipples are different sizes. The baby doesn't
A lot
know
of it's
any
fat.
different.
Yeah.
Babies, that's what your baby is offered, and they learn to live with what you offer them. So it's just about your positioning and getting that baby lined up in that asymmetrical way so that they can maximise their attachment. And they will deal with what they have. I think the thing is that, you know, and I've said it before in one of these sessions, it's about opening the door. If you put your baby on the handle, it will open the door. If you don't put it, if you put it next to the handle, the door doesn't open. So it's about getting your baby in the right place, lined up in the right way, close to you, working with the way that your breast falls, and that might be that it's in a different place on the other side. So you get it absolutely great on one side and you work it out there, and you're trying to do the same with the other side, and actually you need to look in the mirror and see where your breasts are coming from and look at the way that you're holding, or get somebody to video while you're doing it so that you can see what you're doing on both sides, so that you can look back and look at what you're actually doing rather than what you're looking at on somebody else's breasts and baby. But it might be that you're doing the same for both breasts and you need to do something different on each breast in order to attain a deeper latch. It's good that it doesn't hurt after a little while, but actually...
That makes me wonder if it is attachment on that side.
Yeah.
That your baby's mouth is just a little bit small, at 3 weeks still not quite opening hugely, and so it may be, as Naomi says, that you really need to concentrate on that really, really asymmetrical nose to nipple on that larger side, just to make, because when pain fades like that and is painful at the beginning of the feed, it's often because the baby hasn't got it quite back into the
that
soft
one a bit
palate
better.
yet.
It's a really big picture of an asymmetrical latch, and it's so exaggerated you can't believe it. You think the baby's going to miss, but you see how that nipple is just going to skim, literally skim onto the gum ridge above. And then the chin is really, really tucked in and the nose is a long way away. The baby's sniffing the air, and that breast is in line, ready to go, and that nipple is going to go right to the roof of the back of the mouth at the top, not onto the tongue. And if if you're pushing the nipple down onto the tongue instead of letting it go up, then you're going to find that the nipple will rub on the top of the roof of the mouth. So it's about putting it as far back to the roof of the mouth, in the mouth, as you possibly can, and having that asymmetrical latch with the chin really close and the nose far away. And then as you bring the baby close and quickly in from the shoulders, you get that deep latch where the breast is stabilised in the mouth and the baby will start to suckle straight away. So have a little look at what you're doing and see if that is how your baby looks when it goes on.
Yeah, so pain that usually starts and then fades tends to be just that the attachment might not be quite so good on that side. And we have women with all shapes and sizes of breasts, which is why we were talking about the funnels. There's a wonderful and variety of women's bodies and we see, and it's all very normal. And sometimes there's a lot of asymmetry between the breasts. Sometimes it's hardly noticeable, but there's always some. And we get women from some cultures that have very tiny, tiny breasts and they breastfeed absolutely fine. Maybe have to breastfeed the baby a little bit more frequently just because they don't have the storage capacity, but their babies all grow perfectly well, even with very, very tiny A and double A cup breast. So it may be that your little sister, the little side, is actually producing milk really well, because a lot of the size difference in our breast is actually fat tissue, adipose tissue. It's not actually milk producing tissue. So it may be that you just have laid down a little more fat on one side than the other. So yes, I think it's probably very normal. But if you're worried, obviously seek some support from your GP or from your midwife. Hi Jane. Jane's watching us.
Hi, Jane.
Jane Joyce. Thank you for putting the links in. That's really great. One more question. Paula's saying, should I express milk as the little one is eating 10 to 15 minutes only and she gets stressed about fast leaking milk? I'd like to make sure my milk production will stay on high level, and your baby's your first baby. I would, if your attachment is good and you've had another look at it like Naomi was suggesting, and you've got a very forceful milk ejection reflex, it's probably something that you and your baby will learn to cope with over time. And I would say to feed your baby as frequently as you can. I wouldn't worry too much about how long she spends at the breast. It's more important the quality of the suckling that your baby does at the breast. Initially your baby will go on and flutter suck, so this sort of very fast sucking at the breast, and that's to try and get that hormone oxytocin to let the milk down to the ducts. And when that milk lets down to the ducts, your baby will settle into a suck, pause, suck, pause, and that's normal, good feeding, breastfeeding, where your baby's actually consuming milk. And you should hear a soft swallow, that sort of sound if it's a quiet environment. And then your baby can feed from anything from 5 to 40 minutes, and towards the end of the feed you may find your baby starts to flutter suck again, or start to fall asleep, and that's very normal. And that's when your baby, the reason we say don't time the breastfeeding is because your baby will be getting the really creamy milk at the end. There'll be less volume, so the breast will be emptier, but the milk that your baby will be getting is that really, really calorific, fatty milk. It's a bit like having your cheesecake at the end of a meal, or your cheese board. So it's really important not to take them off when they're getting that last bit of the feed. So I would really encourage you not to get too tied up on how long your baby is spending at the breast. Because if you're exclusively breastfeeding, your breast milk, your breastfeeding will be everything to your baby. It will be a sip of water, it will be a biscuit, it will be a full meal. And if you count the number of times that you put something past your lips in a day, feel me.
So at least 16, at least 16 or 20.
You know, you're everything to your baby.
Yeah.
So if your baby just wants a little drink, a little sip, that means coming to the breast. They may fuss and fuss, you put them on, they feed for 2 or 3 minutes and come off, and you think, what was that all about?
That's a hug.
Yeah, they wanted a cuddle.
That's
and
a
then
baby hug.
20 minutes later, they want to feed again. And that's very normal to have this sort of varying pattern and not for it to be regular, the same amount of time. And actually, as you'll find as your baby gets a little bit older, they may get quicker at the breast. And I know in the past you put the baby back on because you think, well, they can't be done. They can't have had a full feed in that time. But babies do get very efficient often at feeding. And you'll find that as your baby gets older, they may feed for a shorter length of time and manage to take everything that they need. So long as your baby's peeing and gaining weight.
And, you know, we say minimum weight gain up to 4 months is for a little girl about 20 grams a day, and for a little boy about 30 grams a day. So you're going to look at what your baby's doing, and it's not easy to weigh babies, and you shouldn't be weighing babies very often because the other 3 signs of suckling, swallowing, peeing and pooing are there before you put babies on scales. So, you know, if you've got concerns about that, then you should be talking to somebody. But actually plotting the weight, you should be seeing that they're doing a steady but not massive weight gain. They shouldn't be putting on pounds and pounds all the time. Some babies do, and they're just breastfed, and that's what they're doing. But generally, you know, most babies put on what they should be putting on, and it's not a huge amount. So 20 to 30 grams a day is what we're looking for, and that's until they're 4 months old, and then it slows down a little bit, and then it slows down again.
And breastfed babies, we know babies that were breastfed in their early lives for the first 6 months, exclusively breastfed, tend to be leaner at age 5 at starting school, and that's what we're meant to be. We're meant to be lean. We're not meant to be, the trend with babies and children has been that babies are getting fatter and fatter, and that's not necessarily healthy for them. So be reassured that breastfed babies do tend to be a bit leaner. You do come across breastfed babies who are huge things, but generally they tend to be leaner than their formula-fed counterparts. So it's worth bearing that in mind as well. I hope that helps. I'm just trying to click the comments. I'm sorry for the delay. Yeah, Donna, do get in touch with us. We'd love to hear from you. Alejandra, where can we get books? Those books. Oh, I mean, if you're looking for books to read, the thing is, they say babies don't come with a manual, but the actual reality is babies come with far too many manuals. So. Yeah. Try and tap into your maternal instinct. It is there. It might not feel like it is. Get people around you who are experienced in babies and mothering and breastfeeding and parenting to support you to find that instinctive voice and to recognise that you are an expert in your own baby, and that knowledge will grow and grow as you journey along parenthood with your baby, and to get that support from health professionals to trust that instinct and to check that things are well. If you're looking for books to read, there are some fantastic books out there. One of the books that La Leche League produce is the sort of Bible of breastfeeding, and it's called The Womanly Art of Breastfeeding. And you can buy it either from La Leche League GB Books, or you can buy it from Amazon, or other online retailers will stock it, because it's a book that's in its multiple edition and it's stood the test of time. So Womanly Art of Breastfeeding is a really brilliant book to get hold of if you fancy reading something. But there's
to buy it for you
don't need to read.
Yeah, and if you meant this book, it's Off to a Best Start. This is available on the Women's Centre website, so Infant Feeding website, and it's on a PDF on there, so you can read it on there along with other books on breastfeeding, leaflets on breastfeeding as well. So if you want to read it antenatally, you can do that, or your midwife may well give you a little tiny version, which is about the size of your phone. It's it's a little one that opens out, and that's just an abridged version of what's actually in this one, and they can give those out antenatally. We just give these out after you've had your baby, because they're not available for free anymore on the NHS, which we used to have, so we print them. So we print enough to give everybody one in their postnatal period. But you can actually find it online, and you can read it online if you want to, along with other documents and things on our website. So do have a little look at that if that's what you meant and you wanted to read that particular one.
I see. Yeah. Andrea's asking about nipple piercings and breastfeeding, and that she didn't get so much support with her first baby. She did 3 weeks, and she's hoping to feed for longer this time. You've already got little bits of colostrum coming through. You're in a lot better position this time, because you have all the experiences from before that will help inform you of how to do things. So this time, really ask for the help. It sounds like you're already doing great things by expressing your colostrum. Nipple piercing in itself is not a problem. You may find that you need to remove the piercing simply so that it's comfortable and so that your baby doesn't, can attach without having the piercing in its mouth. What you sometimes find is that when the piercing is removed, that the milk leaks from those holes from where the piercing was. So it's almost like it's created some extra holes for the milk to escape. So at the end of our nipple, there are many holes, like a watering can. It's not just one single hole. And so you may find, if it's gone through the nipple like this, that you leak milk from the sides here. But it doesn't affect breastfeeding or your ability to produce milk, or how your baby will attach, as long as the piercing's been removed before you feed your baby. There shouldn't be a problem.
I think 2 more questions. We're nearly an hour in here.
Are we? Sorry, the time flies by.
Yeah, doesn't it just?
Hi, Kirsty. You didn't have a good experience feeding either. You really want to feed your 3rd baby. And you're definitely able to ask for help in the hospital. Please do. So yeah, really do ask for help. Ask for somebody to come and be with you when you do hand expressing, if your baby's not attaching, and make sure you're doing lots and lots of skin to skin. That's something you can do a lot, even when the staff are not with you or not able to get to you. Put your baby in skin to skin and let your baby play out those feeding behaviours. So as we said, baby will, often mothers think that baby is frustrated, but actually it's really positive breast searching behaviour. So baby may bang its head against you like this, it may shake its head from side to side like this, and all of that is, it may claw at your breast with your baby may use its hands, it may try to slump down, and all of these things are breast searching behaviours. So allow your baby to do as much of that as you can. Just get your baby skin to skin, and then when your baby looks like your baby's ready to attach and is really giving you those feeding cues, and you can look at some of our previous live videos. Naomi's spoken about feeding cues in some of our previous videos, which you can watch. Ring the bell and say, can somebody watch my baby attach? So do ask for the help, please.
And remember that, if your baby's not feeding very much, it's not going to wake up and play out those behaviours if it's in the cot.
Yep.
So pick it up and put it skin to skin, and it will start to root and start to smell and start to crawl towards the breast and want to feed. So make sure you don't just leave your baby in the cot and you think it's asleep and not wanting to feed, because actually if you pick it up and put it near you, it probably will start to root and search for the breast, and that is the sure way of getting your baby to feed well. One more.
One more. Hi, Verity. Let me see. Antoanita, I'm sure I said that incorrectly. I do apologise for my pronunciation. And you're 34 weeks. You've got a painful, firm, and sounds like taut left breast. And is that normal? It's hard for us to tell without looking.
Some people get infected breasts when they're not pregnant. Some people get infected breasts when they're pregnant, and some people get infected breasts when they have had their babies. I think it's probably worth discussing with your midwife. At 34 weeks, you probably are about to have an appointment. Maybe you've just had one and it's happened, and if it has, then maybe have a conversation either with the infant feeding team, or see if you can have a face-to-face with your midwife or your GP if you think that it's a problem. I think that it needs to be investigated a little bit. Is it sore? Do you feel
I think
with it,
the fact that you've chosen the words very painful makes me think that probably you need to just check it. Yeah.
And just make sure to see what's going on. But some people do get breast infections when they're not breastfeeding. So it might be that that's what's happened. And
it could be that your body's just really gearing up, and that your breast is really starting already to be a powerhouse of milk. So sometimes you can get very hot and full feeling. But because it's only one side, and because you're describing it as very painful, I would definitely, like Naomi says, talk to your GP or your midwife or somebody to have a look.
Take some, painkillers, paracetamol, if you feel that you're really uncomfortable, and talk to somebody.
I think we don't have any more time, do we? We have to go, unfortunately.
But we are coming back again.
Yes.
So save your questions and get in early, and then we'll go down the list. And if there's anything that you really need to know the answer from, our details will be put up on the messages on the whole link, so that you can have all the details to contact us. If it hasn't come up before you need to, then it'll be on last week's and the week before's as well, so that you can have a look and see how to contact us in all the different ways, and all the local supports that you can reach as well. So please do contact us if you've got any questions. We've had some really positive phone calls and things as a result of these. People have said, we saw you on the video link, and we wanted to talk to you. So that's really good. It is reaching out to people in the right way.
Great.
So we'll see you next week.
Good luck, ladies, with everything.
Week.
Bye.
Bye.